Ammar, everyone talks about the Iranian influence in Syria and their support to the regime. How much evidence do we have in this regard?
Well, we have evidence in terms of from eyewitnesses, in terms of that the tear gas canisters that are being used against protesters are made in Iran, that the electric tasers being used against the protesters are made in Iran. We also know that there is a huge amount of advisors, especially on the electronic warfare and in the computers, in the Syrian Computer Society and Syrian apparatuses, sort of trying to help the Syrian security officers track dissidents who are interacting always on social networking sites and on the internet in general. We know also that there have been some trucks that were, of course, there's also Western technology here. We are hearing from Nokia in particular, so we really need to examine Nokia's role in exporting technology either to Iran or to Syria directly that is being used to track satellite phones and basically and communities that are using satellite phones and protesters who are using satellite phones. So this is an important link also that needs to be investigated by the international community. We know that the Americans have said they have evidence. They didn't reveal all of that evidence, but I doubt very much they would be able to go out publicly and say it had they not had some evidence to actually back that there was some logistical support by the Iranians to the, and especially through the Iranian Republican Guard, to their Syrian counterparts during the protest movement. And we know that there are security cooperation agreements and mutual defense agreements between Bashar al-Assad and that were signed and sort of renewed over the years between the Assad regime and the Iranian government. So all of this are things that we know and we can be assured of. There are also about 5,000 Iranian troops in Syria. They've been there for years. The mutual defense agreement that exists between the two countries allow for this kind of presence. But we don't know their role. We don't know exactly if they actually took part, as many protest leaders are saying, in supplying the snipers or in actively supporting the crackdown against the protesters. We hear reports of that. We hear rumors of that, but we don't see evidence of that, in terms of videos or showing Iranians. But that role played by Iran, coupled with the statements made by Iranian leaders, not to mention also their ally Hezbollah in Lebanon, that supported the Assad regime, even though the Iranian government and Hezbollah have sort of praised the revolution in Egypt, they praised the revolution in Tunisia, and they praised the Arab Spring. When it came to Syria, all of a sudden their rhetoric changed and their hypocrisy showed. For this reason, the protest leaders and the protesters on the ground began burning Iranian flags, began burning Hezbollah flags. They denounced, basically saying in their, no Iran, no Hezbollah. We don't want these people, we don't want this kind of politics, to be involved. And also Russia and China, China have had that kind of a treatment after their leaders also sort of spoke in praise of the Assad and they failed to sort of endorse the demands of the revolution. So Russian flags were burned, Chinese flags were burned. The protesters tried to appeal to the Russians by writing sometimes signs in Russians and Chinese also, and saying, look, we need your support, you're supposed to be this country that with whom we had this long-term relationship, and now we need you, And but when that didn't sort of appeal to Russian leadership or to change their position, the protesters began burning also Russian and Chinese flags. I think that shows you, in a sense, now if you're going to have a democratic government in Syria, that the kind of politics that's going to emerge is going to be radically different than the kind of foreign politics adopted by the Assads. I think this is going to become a pro-Western government, entrepreneurial government, a government that's not going to be part of troubling alliances, but they are going to establish a neighborly sort of relationship with all of their neighbors on basis of respect of each other's sovereignty. And I think this is a very positive development. So indeed, Western leaders have nothing to fear out of change in Syria. For a long time, they were told that the population is radical. Now they realize actually the population is very pragmatic. The visit by the U.S. ambassador Robert Ford and Chevalier, the French ambassador to Hama, and the reception they've had, olive branches and roses and whatever, it really shows that the Syrian people are willing to basically extend their hands to the outside world and say, look, we want friendly relations with whoever is going to stand by us in this moment of crisis for us. So this is a chance for the United States to get what they always wanted to get from Syria, which is a friendly government and a more positive outlook on regional politics. This is what the Syrians are offering on the level of the people, not some elites out there sort of, saying, if you're in charge, you'll do this. No, this is the people saying, if there is a democracy in Syria, this is the kind of policies we want. We want policies that are open onto the West, open onto the world, that respect sovereignties, that shun away troubling alliances and violence and so on.